Greetings, everyone. I, Sonia Gupta from Kulachi Hansraj Model School, Delhi, welcome you all to our special Golden Jubilee edition of EdTalk, a panel discussion on Sustainable Development Goal number 9. At Kulachi, we always initiate all activities by invoking the goddess Gayatri, who is known to eliminate darkness by imparting light in our minds.
ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्.
Welcome back. Before we begin with the panel discussion, I would like to give you all a brief synopsis of SDG 9. United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 9 is about industry, innovation, and infrastructure. It aims to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Infrastructure provides the basic physical systems and structures essential for the operation of a society or enterprise. Industrialization drives economic growth, creates job opportunities, and thereby reduces poverty. Innovation advances the technological capabilities of industrial sectors and prompts the development of new skills. The ultimate motive of SDG 9 is primarily to promote economic growth, social development, and climate action. It is crucial for humanity to connect and communicate effectively to overcome the many interlinked economic, social, and environmental challenges, and also develop expertise in industry and technology. Let me now hand over the charge to our moderator, Priya Singhal, who will introduce the other 4 panelists and carry forward with the rest of the discussion. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Could the world's battle with pollution be won with a series of innovative ideas and a rethinking of how we structure our economies? With half the world now living in cities and billions of dollars spent each year on growth and infrastructure, we need to finance and implement sustainable infrastructure practices that reduce our environmental footprint, employ clean technologies, and are economically viable. Today's panel discussion is a small effort towards the same. I want to introduce you all to the members of this panel discussion: Parth Jaitley, Aradhya Neogi Singh, Anuj Gupta, and Radhika Sharma. In the first round of discussion, we shall talk about the initiation of Goal 9 and various targets and indicators under it. I would like to direct my first question towards you, Radhika. As we know that the Sustainable Development Goals are designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all, how does Goal 9 contribute to this and act as an important pillar?
In my view, investment in infrastructure and innovation are crucial drivers of economic growth and development. With over half the world population now living in cities, mass transport and renewable energies are becoming ever more important, as are the growth of new industries and information and communication technologies. Technological progress is also key to finding lasting solutions to both economic and environmental challenges, such as providing new jobs, promoting energy efficiency, promoting sustainable industries, and investing in scientific and innovation are all important ways to facilitate sustainable development. We should also keep in mind that more than 4 billion people still do not have access to the internet, and 90% are from the developing world. Bridging this digital divide is crucial to ensure equal access to information and knowledge, as well as to foster innovation and entrepreneurship. I believe that Sustainable Development Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, proves to be a crucial part of the chain of 17 goals.
Radhika, we totally agree that technological progress, which will ultimately promote sustainable industries and practices, are an important way to promote sustainable development. Anuj, what do you think makes Goal 9 an indispensable part of the 17 goals? And why is it necessary to emphasize on this goal in recent times?
I believe developing countries have a huge yet underexploited potential for industrialization and innovation. For example, the manufacturing value added per capita in least developed countries is 45 times lower than in Europe, and in developing countries, only 30% of agricultural production undergoes industrial processing compared to 98% in high income countries. Basic infrastructure, roads, energy grids, water sanitation, and information and communication technologies remain scarce in developing countries. These constraints also affect the overall productivity rates of developing countries. Moreover, unsustainable industrial processes causing high carbon dioxide emissions to often remain the norm in developing countries. Developing better infrastructure is crucial to eventually improving human well-being and industrial productivity and competitiveness.
Yeah, do you agree with the thought process of Anuj?
Yes, Priya. I think Anuj is right in saying this as investments in transport, irrigation, energy, and information and communications technology have been crucial to driving economic growth and empowering communities in many countries. The job multiplication effect of industrialization has a positive impact on society, as 1.1 jobs in manufacturing creates 2.2 jobs in other sectors. The manufacturing sector is an important employer, accounting for around 14.2% of the world's workforce of 2.9 billion. It has long been recognized that a strong physical network of industry and communication can enhance productivity and incomes and improve health, well being, and education. Technological progress similarly enhances our welfare as economies, can also improve the state of planet through increased resource and energy efficiency. Under this SDG, the United Nations has also set some targets which aim to build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation.
Aradhya has just now talked about the targets of SDG 9. Parth, can you elaborate on the areas of interest under this goal?
Absolutely. Well, the United Nations believes that everyone can help to make sure that we meet the global goals. This initiative is broken down into 8 specific targets to reach the SDG goal. The first 5 targets are called outcome targets, which have specific desired outcomes that achieve the objective of the SDG goal. The first target being develop quality, reliable, sustainable, resilient, and inclusive infrastructure, including regional and trans-border infrastructure, to support economic development and human well-being with a focus on affordable and fair access for all. And second target states that promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization to raise the industry's share of employment and GDP. Whereas third target aims to increase access of small-scale industries and other enterprises, particularly in developing countries, to financial services, including affordable credit and in their integration into markets and value chains.
To continuing on Parth's point, the fourth target intends to quote upgrade infrastructure and retrofit industries to make them sustainable, with increased resource use efficiency and a greater adoption of clean and environmentally sound technologies and industrial processes. And lastly, the fifth target under this topic directs to enhance scientific research, upgrade the technological capabilities of industrial sectors, and encourage innovation in all countries, and substantially increase the number of research and development workers, and also increase development and research spending.
The remaining 3 targets are quoted as means of achieving targets. Sixth target, that is, facilitate sustainable infrastructure development in developing countries through enhanced financial, technological, and technical support. Seventh target, that is, support domestic technology development and industrial diversification in developing countries. including by ensuring a conducive policy environment for industrial diversification and value addition to commodities. And finally, the eighth target, that is universal access to information and communications, technology that strives to provide universal and affordable access to the internet.
Like a broad goal touching on everything from sustainable cities and scientific research to communications technology and financial services. A closer look at its targets, however, reveals a quite specific set of intended achievements. So, Anuj, according to you, out of all the eight targets mentioned by Parth, Aradhya, and Radhika, which one do you think is the most important one and why so?
Though all the targets are important, but I feel that target 9.1 is the most important because it is the most basic step towards growth. Infrastructure plays a key role in all three dimensions of sustainable development: the economy, the environment, and society. As the world seeks to meet ambitious targets such as Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement on climate change, infrastructure is becoming more widely recognized. Infrastructure should not be viewed as individual assets, but as a part of system with a portfolio of assets that collectively hold great potential to deliver the three pillars of SDGs, namely economic, environmental, and social sustainability.
I agree with you, Anuj, but only to some extent. I myself feel that keeping in mind the challenges being faced by the developing world, the fifth target of SDG goal number 9, which looks at the boosting scientific research and intends to increase investments on research and also increase the number of full-time researchers and as a proportion of GDP could greatly benefit the rural communities of the developing world, which somehow still suffer from the lack of access to new technologies.
Yes, I too agree with Aradhya. Achieving this target could greatly improve the livelihoods and standard of living in rural areas, and more specifically, rural India. For example, around 2.6 billion people in the developing world still face difficulties in accessing electricity full time, and many do not have access to water and basic sanitation.
All have very well articulated your points. You have valid elucidations to prove your point, and that's great. To be honest, right now I am bewildered to go with which one. Although I feel they all are the stanchion of SDG 9. Developing sustainable, resilient, and inclusive infrastructure is as imperative as enhancing, researching, and upgrading industrial technology. Well, this brings us to the end of round one of our panel discussion. But before we move on to our next round of panel discussion, let's review what insight we have gained so far. Welcome back, friends. Moving on, we shall now talk about our accomplishment of the set targets under SDG 9. But before this, I think it would be more appropriate to outline the challenges we have faced with industry and infrastructure. Anuj, can you please explain some of these challenges?
The trade industry is crucial for a prosperous economy with job growth, firm partnership, and a wider variety of product availability. The quality of trade and transport infrastructure, as well as manufacturing, require much improvement. India's industrial growth rate shows that these determinants have decreased by 0.8% from 2016 to 2019. India's industries as a whole also produce lots of hazardous waste as well as water waste, which contradicts the idea of sustainability.
Understood, Anuj. Radhika, can you elaborate as to how we can ensure that this problem is looked upon and that there is no hindrance in the development of industry and trade?
I guess upgrading all industries and infrastructure for sustainability, as highlighted by Target 9.4, is the answer to this problem. Its indicator, which states that CO2 emission per unit of value added, measures a kilogram of carbon dioxide emitted per dollar of GDP. The results have shown that the intensity of global CO2 emission has declined by nearly one quarter since year 2000, showing a great general decoupling of carbon dioxide emission from GDP growth. The same trend was visible in manufacturing industries after year 2010.
But wouldn't the decline in manufacturing activity adversely affect the industrial and economic growth rate?
To encounter the deaccelerated industrial growth rate, Target 9.2, which focuses on promoting inclusive and sustainable industrialization, thereby helps raise significantly the industry's share of employment and GDP in line with the national circumstances, as well as to double its share in least developed countries will be the key. Historically, the countries that have succeeded in achieving sustained economic growth and development are those that have been able to transform their production activities effectively from low to high productivity.
Furthermore, adding on to Radhika's point, to meet the SDG 9 in India, our government has focused on making the business industry easier to enter, encouraging new businesses and growth. The company has implemented business reforms to improve its rank within the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business. As a result, in 2019, it ranked 63rd in comparison to 2015's 142nd world ranking. Product development and design have also massively increased, quadrupling from 2015 to 2019, which is a precursor to industrial growth. India has upheld not only the goal of improving the industry, innovation, and infrastructure, but of keeping it sustainable and environmentally friendly. It has also successfully managed to have one of the lowest per capita carbon emissions in the world. It has averaged a GDP growth of 7.2% between years 2018 and 2019. Overall, in India, we have taken massive strides towards reaching SDG 9.
But are these efforts sufficient?
Can you please be more specific?
Earlier, the proportion of small scale industries in a total industry value added was low. The small scale industries in developing countries like ours face the problem regarding a formal credit system, which makes it difficult for them to integrate in global value chains. In developing countries, only 34% of small scale industries benefit from loans or lines of credit.
Anuj, the answer to your question is Target 9.3, which focuses on increasing the access of small scale industries and other enterprises, particularly in developing countries, to financial services, including affordable credit and their integration into value chains and markets, provides the solution to the challenges faced by us in this direction. Also, indicators 9.3.1 and 9.3.2, which talks about, quote, proportion of small scale industries in total industry value added, end quote, unquote, proportion of small scale industries with a loan or line of credit, end quote, respectively, help us measure the progress and provide us with a layout to reach our goal.
Your responses are highly appreciated. SDG 9 is also said to be interlinked with other SDGs. Would someone like to manifest their views on this?
May I?
Yes, sure, Radhika.
Thank you so much, Priya. While industrialization is connected to SDG 8 and SDG 11, innovation and new skills development will help increase SDG 6, 2, 7, and 11.
Thank you everyone for enlightening us with such explicit justification of your points. Indeed, the government should pay some heed to the proper implementation of all these objectives. Now, let's have a look at all the points we discussed in this round. This brings us to the end of round 2 of our panel discussion. And now we are stepping into round 3, whose center of attention would be the COVID-19 pandemic which hit us globally and how to achieve all the measures about which we've talked in round 2. As wonderfully quoted by Stephen Muggy, quote, "We are at a time in history where the smart will maintain a body chemistry that is distinctly different from the masses," end quote. Many years from now, we will remember 2020 as the year the world faced a health crisis of unprecedented magnitude. The resulting impact of COVID-19 on human health and well-being has been swift and devastating, presenting serious challenges to health systems and calling for rapid response to contain the virus. So, Parth, what are your views regarding this?
We are now keenly aware of this threat, as well as of the weaknesses in our healthcare system and society in general. In fact, the pandemic is a reminder of our own fragility, an uncomfortable thought perhaps, but risks to well-being may be difficult to foresee or control and can have drastic impacts. Yet preparedness and resilience are a silver lining to this crisis. Infrastructure systems in particular form the basis of building strong societies as critical services such as communication, healthcare, transportation, energy, water, and sanitation are relied on in times of crisis.
Yes, it is time we assess the infrastructure resilience in light of the impact of COVID-19. It is also important to look beyond the context of the current crisis as to how infrastructure can be made more adaptable across multiple dimensions in the face of numerous threats and risks. These dimensions include the physical assets, operation, business models, and governance, as well as financing. Furthermore, consideration needs to be given to infrastructure systems generally, not just individual infrastructure assets or projects, taking into account broader factors such as the environment and climate and the role of technology. Given this, spatial dimensions need to be also taken into account, as not all regions and municipalities are affected by the COVID-19 in the same way, and hence their specificities will require targeted responses.
Policy choices and decisive action could become a defining moment in the recovery from COVID-19 and also in addressing other important risks in infrastructure systems, as many governments have included infrastructure spending when planning and prioritizing investment, especially in the context of technologies and innovations that could enable lower cost and digitally enabled solutions.
Yet, Anuj, not all impacts in infrastructure have been negative. Some services have actually seen an increase in demand, reflecting a wide variation and heterogeneous nature of infrastructure. For example, construction or maintenance projects on roads have advanced during confinement periods, as less traffic on roads provided opportunity for construction crews to work unencumbered. And why forget about the visible improvement in the air quality?
So, slowly but surely, we can see that SDG 9 could and will solve the problem of COVID-19 too. But what is the national action on the SDGs in India? Anuj, can you provide us with some examples for the same?
Yes, Priya, Niti Aayog, the government of India's premier think tank, is one such example. It has been entrusted with the task of coordinating the SDGs and has undertaken a mapping of schemes related to these goals and their targets. Atal Innovation Mission is one such initiative started by Niti Aayog in 2016. The objective of this scheme is to promote innovation and entrepreneurship across the country. The aim here is to provide grant in aid that includes one-time establishment of cost rupees 10 lakh and operational expenses of rupees 10 lakh for a maximum period of 5 years to each ATL.
I would like to talk about another government initiative, the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. The primary objective of the scheme is to provide all-weather rural road connectivity to every rural habitation with a minimum population of 500 in the plains and 250 plus in hill states, tribal districts, and desert areas. This scheme is one of the most successful initiatives in rural India.
There is one more program that I can remember, the Border Area Development Program, or BADP, which became even more important during the pandemic time. The main objective of BADP is to meet the special developmental needs and well being of people living in remote and inaccessible areas situated near the international border. The BADP scheme includes the construction of primary health centers, schools, the supply of drinking water, community centers, connectivity, and drainage to enable sustainable living in border areas.
Also, Startup India, a flagship initiative of the Government of India that intends to build a strong ecosystem for nurturing innovation and startups in the country that will drive sustainable economic growth and generate a large scale employment opportunities.
You all are very well informed, my fellow panelists. Continuing on, we all know that the third edition of the SDG India Index and Dashboard 2020-21 was released by Niti Aayog on 3rd June 2021. Would you like to talk about it, Anuj?
Definitely. Since its inaugural launch in 2018, this index has been comprehensively documenting and ranking the progress made by states and union territories towards achieving the sustainable development goals. Now, in its third year, the index has become primary tool for monitoring progress on SDGs in the country and has simultaneously fostered competition among the states and union territories.
Adding on to Anuj's point, the country's overall SDG score has improved by 6 points from 60 in 2019 to 66 in 2020 and 2021. This positive stride towards achieving the targets is largely driven by exemplary countrywide performance in Goal 6 and 7, where the composite goal scores are 83 and 92 respectively. I do hope that the new generation, with their innovative mindsets, can at least make sure that we will be able to achieve these goals till 2030.
Yes, I too feel the same. But Parth, don't you think that with the advancement of technology and growth in capital intensive techniques, it will hinder the goal of social welfare and employment being pursued by the government?
Yeah, I feel that initially there will be a decrease in overall employment in the economy, as capital intensive technology would replace the labor intensive techniques. But eventually, with the use of modern technology and machinery, there will be efficient production, which will ultimately lead to a rise in income. As income levels will rise, people will certainly move towards spending more, which will increase the aggregate expenditure in the economy. In order to meet the increased demand, the producers will aim to increase the supply as well, which will ultimately lead to an increase in employment in the long run.
Very well said, Parth. This brings us to the end of our panel discussion. Let us look towards the ideas shared by all of our panelists in round 3. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Principal Ma'am for giving all of us an incredible platform and this wonderful opportunity where we could all express our respective views with regards to SDG 9. I would now request Sonia Ma'am to kindly present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Priya. Before signing off, I wish to express my gratitude to our Honorable Principal Ma'am, Mrs. Sneh Verma, for her encouragement, motivation, and zest for taking the initiatives for organizing different events at state, national, and international levels. Ma'am, your zeal for learning and collaboration has indeed helped us all to explore the unexplored. I would also like to thank our panelists for providing us with such a wonderful insight about SDG 9. its targets, and how we can actually achieve them. Each one of you was exceptionally outstanding in presenting your views about the topic. And finally, a huge thank you to our audience for being with us this evening. Thank you, everyone.